Fishing the Dream is proudly powered to you by Battery World, keeping you switched on. BLA, the Tackle Shop Carseldine, AE For Real Charters, Fish Head, Wilson Fishing, Moreton Bay Charters and Big Cat Charters. On this week's episode of Fishing the Dream, we go out fishing with the Tackle Shop Carseldine, fishing Brisbane River and beautiful Redcliffe. Steve takes me fishing with two experts, well, three if you include Nigel. I get to see why fishing is such a finesse sport and why you need the right techniques, the right baits, colours and equipment. So if you want to improve your fishing skills, stay tuned as Nigel and I go fishing the dream with Tim Morgan and Tristan Taylor.
Tough. You think you've had enough. Grab your mates and let's all fish the dream. Fishing the dream, fishing the dream. Let's all go and fish the dream.
G'day and welcome to this week's episode of Fishing the Dream. I'm here with Steve from the Tackle Shop Carseldine. Steve, what are we fishing for today?
Well, hopefully, mate, this morning we'll go and chase a few bream. You hit the Hornybrook Bridge around the pylon, see how we go there. And as the tide starts to drop, we'll change tack and go and chase some platties.
Are we using light gear today?
Light for the bream, and we'll step it up a little bit when we're chasing a few flatties.
All right, well, I'll go pop over to see Tim and have a look at what lures we'll be using today.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm here with Tim Morgan from Atomic. Tim, what lures are we using today?
We'll be using all Atomic lures today. When we start off for bream in the morning, we'll be throwing the little crank 38 deeps and mid divers, depending on how deep a water we're fishing. They're a great little lure, you know, to just for the bream, just cast out, slow wind in, and hopefully we'll get a few bream doing that. Then as that tide drops back, the reef will get exposed, it'll get a bit shallow for us. We're going to head up the Pine River a bit and we'll start throwing some plastics for flatties. So we've got the, we've got the Atomic prongs here in 3-inch, probably my favourite flathead lure of all time. And basically what we're going to do is just target them near the bottom, around a few of the bridges and things like that, and hopefully pick up a lizard or two.
All right, now retrieves. So obviously different retrieves from the hard bodies to the soft body plastics?
Yep, with the hard bodies, with the bream, definitely with the bream, it's just a cast out as far as you can to get as far from the boat as you can and a slow wind in. Today we've got a fair bit of a southeaster blowing, so it's stirring up the water. The water's pretty dirty, so I'll go to a little bit darker style lure because that'll silhouette a bit better and the bream will hone in on it a bit better. With the soft plastics, basically with the soft plastic, if we're throwing the soft plastics for bream, I like to use a light jig head with light leader because they're a much more spooky fish, and we'll be throwing them in around the pylons and things like that. With the flathead, going to a bigger soft plastic, a bigger jig head because bigger mouth, they're going to eat bigger bait fish, allow us to fish a little bit heavier because flathead have got the teeth. You want to go to a heavier leader, so if they suck it right down, they won't bust you up.
Excellent. Well, let's put this into practice and see how we go today.
Let's go get a few, eh?
Absolutely.
Know your rod.
Hey, Cord, how are you?
Good, Fraser. How are you?
Excellent.
All right, so you guys are fishing with lures in the river.
Absolutely.
Have we got the rod for you?
Excellent.
Hey, Fraser.
Here we are.
All right, so you're fishing the Brisbane River.
Brizzy River.
Right.
First time I fished the Brizzy River too.
Oh, okay.
So
you're lure fishing?
yes, lure fishing again.
Okay, no worries. So look, we've got a couple of rods here that are perfect for the Brisbane River, and we'll just run through why they're so good for it. I mean, obviously the river, you're fishing heavier style lures and deeper water in some of it, and some of it you can be fishing quite shallow
yes,
water. So
correct.
it's a real variation of sort of the tactics you use and the gear you need, and you need a bit of a multi-purpose rod for doing that. So if I was fishing the river myself, I'd look for, we spoke in the earlier segments, I'd look for a butt length that was a little bit longer than usual, because you could be using a heavier lure and that helps balance out the rod. I'd look for, generally you're in a smaller boat if you're in the river, you're not generally in a larger boat, so I'd look for, you can use cork or EVA, or either will work, but I generally look for an EVA butt on my rod there because it's a finesse situation and the deep water, and you're in a smaller boat and get quite wet in there. Blank has to be carbon, you're lure fishing, so yet again carbon blank, but The only difference with this one, I was fishing the river, I'd look for a finer taper on the rod. So you have a look at this rod here. This is the Super Basser. If you have a look here, it's quite fine through the rod compared to some of the other carbon rods we looked at, but it's actually got a lot of carbon in the wall. So what it does is give us a rod that'll hold a lure with heavy weight and still allow us to put the action, but fine enough and light enough that it allows us to use the lighter ones, say when you're up on the rock walls and the shallow parts, not deep fishing vertical for your bigger fish. Yet again, I've got the bait caster one here, so when you're using your crankbait style, lipless crankbait style lures down on the bottom in the deep water, preferably I would use the bait caster. It's an overhead, so it gives you that more control because you're following the lure down to the bottom and watching it, so it's just rolling off the line. You'll see that there, it's the overhead, so it's designed for that bait caster reel to go on top of the rod. It's got smaller guides because it's a drum style reel, so the line just runs out. We don't need the big ones. And then your alternative is the spin outfit. This is the other one I have here. So it's the Super Basser spin yet again. All right, this one's got cork grips. As I said, we can use cork or EVA, but it's got the same characteristics that we saw in the construction of the other rod. So we've got the split butt, so we've got the slightly longer butt. They've got the gap in it there, yet again reduces the weight. It's got the carbon blank, obviously we're fishing with lures, and it's got that finer carbon blank but with the thicker wall, so that enables us to yet again work the heavier lures if we want, but also it's light enough to do that finesse style fishing up and down the rock walls where you might be hopping a grub down the rock wall or throwing a little hard body along the edge of it. And obviously big fish in the river, we all know that it's capable. You never know, you can catch a brim or a tailor 1 minute, next minute be into a 14 kilo dewey or a threadfin salmon. So it's important that we have some quality components. This Super Bass has got the Fuji reel seat and Fuji guides. They really do pass the test.
And it's got the longer rings compared to the other rod where it was the overhead.
That's right. So it's a spinning rod, that's for the distance. So we've got that bigger stripper guide there, the larger one to keep the line off the blank to give us that distance if we stand it off the wall, but yet again, the smaller guides in the tip, so it gives us that control over the lure. So we've got the business end of the rod and the finesse end of the rod.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like fun. I can't wait to get out there
it's good fun.
And give it a crack.
Yeah, I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks very much.
After fishing some shallow rock with no luck, Tim takes us towards the bridge, and it didn't take him long to land his first fish.
There's one there, just come from a little little bit of reef. Not a real big fish, I don't think, but a start to the day anyway. So we'll just swing him into the boat. So yeah, so you can see it's still pretty dirty water here. Not a lot of visibility, but this little atomic crank just bouncing over those rocks on the bottom there. Just got that lovely little fish there. Probably only about 22 or so to the tip, so not even legal, but. Great fun, and there's some big fish live up here. So,
what's the best way to handle bream then?
Well, I've got him handled around here because with the handle and the bream, you really got to watch. They got really bad spines on the back there, and they've also got a couple which I've folded in under there, their anal spine, and a couple under their pectoral fins there, sort of thing. So they are pretty spiny little critters.
And these are yellowfin bream?
Yellowfin bream, that's all we get up here around Brisbane really. You head a bit further north, you get the pikey bream, and then when you head further south, you get the southern black bream, sort of thing. So, great little, this time of year, they're going to be coming up on these reefs and that to feed, but usually in winter time, you'll catch them in a little bit deeper water. So we'll put him back and try and get his big brother, eh?
Beautiful.
Tim and I were targeting the reef while Nigel was casting at the pylons, and it looked like it paid off.
Not a bad little fish.
So you'll have to talk him through that, Tim, because Nigel doesn't have a microphone on there.
Yeah, no worries. So that was just on that little atomic crank again. So a little bit bigger than the bream I got there. So he's well and truly legal, that fella there. Just the lure just come out. So that's a great little fish. And we've just pulled up, we're fishing this bit of reef, but Nigel's cast back, as we've been doing along this whole section here, back along these pylons here. He's brought his lure right back along the side of him, and the fish are sitting in the eddies behind those. So as that lure's gone through the gap there, this fella's come out and grabbed it, and that's a great little fish. So well done, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Showed us up. We'll get him back in the water and I'll try and get his brother.
Don't go away, because after the break, I head over to Brizzy River to catch up with Tristan Taylor. Well, it had been a hard day in the river, but Tristan showed us if you keep changing locations, changing retrieves, it can pay off.
That's a fish.
We got one.
Finally.
You reckon you got there, Tristan?
I reckon we got a small brim. They should have. I've seen a few darting away, and I hadn't kind of managed to hook any, but finally one kind of bumped along, and there he goes. So this is just on the atomic hard. Just a small little guy. And there we go.
Good fish.
So the way you handle brim, or the way I do anyway, is I just like to get my hand in front of these dorsal spines and then just under the pectoral fins here as well. That way you've got a fairly good grip with one hand. One finger just on his belly there. You want to watch out for the big spine down here on his anus, and then also up here on the tops. They can inflict a nasty little wound if you if you don't watch out. If you hold them like that, generally they're not going to move around too much, so you can see just how well that is. A lot of people will kind of try and hold these dorsal spines down, but as soon as it slips out of your hand, that's going to go into the finger. So just like to hold him like that.
And the legal size for the brim?
And the legal size is 25 centimetres in Queensland. So, you know, he's just over legal size. He's not in the best condition, but a lot of them are spawning at the moment, this kind of winter time. So they do lose condition a little bit. By the end of the spawn, they've all lost a lot of weight, and they're kind of all ready to feed up again and get that condition back. So awesome. we'll pop him back.
In the water.
Yeah, you always want to make sure you check every time you cast that there's no weed on it, because if there's weed on your lure, the fish just will not touch it. Yeah. They know the difference between a real fish. Here we go.
There you go.
Real bait and an artificial one when there's weed on it. That's for sure.
You might have to get you back on a little hard body there, Fraser. Yeah, I think so.
Here we go. This is actually a little bit better, this brim. And as he gets closer, I just back the drag off a little bit. When they're closer to the boat, there's a lot less stretch in your line, and that's when you're going to lose a fish. So you want to let your drag system do all the work for you. Every time he pulls against that drag, he's tiring himself out. So I'm just letting him fight backwards and forwards. When he gets a bit closer, he'll actually be a little bit more docile because we've let him work himself out.
There he is.
And then I can grab the net and bring him over.
Good size brim. He's a better one. Good fish.
So just on that atomic hard, crank 38 again, doing the damage.
Now it was time to find some man-made structure.
When you're fishing structure like this, sometimes you can actually utilise a skip cast. So, not sure how we'll go. We've got a half-ounce jig head here, but basically what you do is aim your plastic on a fairly low angle so it hits the water almost like skimming a rock. And the idea being that you can skip it in under pontoons or under some structure. I'll give it a shot, see how we go. There you are. So basically it just keeps the angle of the line really low, and then if say the pontoon's only a couple of metres off the water, you can get it right in under the pontoon and under the pylons, and generally that's where the fish will be sitting. So yeah, skip casts can be pretty handy, especially with plastics. Yep, not too bad. You could probably get it a little lower on the first strike, and it might skip a bit further.
Yep.
And it's also pretty hard. We're using fairly heavy jig heads, so the lighter the jig head, the better it'll skip. Fail.
That's a failed effort. I hope you got the first one that I did. We can do it nice and low. Whoop.
That's a 6.
Yeah. See that one? All right, I'll leave the skim casting till next week when I've practiced a bit.
So we come upriver a little bit and around the Brecky Creek area, just trying to find some bream up on the rock walls. The lower reaches have been a bit tough for us today, and we're just kind of scratching our head trying to find where we might find some bream. So we've got the electric deployed, and we're just slowly working up the rock wall with a hard body. We've got the atomic crank in the deep 38 size. and straight through 3 pound Unitica leader. And yeah, so far not much action. So that's a deep diving hard body lure. Basically the idea of it is you cast her out, and the design of the lure, the bib there, will actually drag it down under the water for you, and it basically imitates a bait fish or a fleeing shrimp or something like that, and has a tight little body roll, which actually most bream, whiting, flathead, that kind of thing will actually see that and have a good go at it. What I'm trying to aim to do here is keep it really close to the rocks, within about 1 foot or so of the shore, and then paralleling along on the rock wall. We're in 2.7 foot of water here, and it probably drops off to about 10 foot on our left-hand side. So just trying to keep right up tight as far as we can, and slowly just rolling that lure back. And hopefully if we pass a bream, you might see that as a fleeing bait fish and grab hold. Nice big long searching cast. It's a pretty effective way to cover a lot of ground when you don't know where the fish are at a given time. They could be, you know, right up tight, or they could be a little bit deeper. With a soft plastic or something, you might have to work it a little bit more thoroughly to cover the same amount of ground. With a hard body, you can really bang out those casts and search all of that water column.
Now it's time for one last crack, and patience pays off when fishing.
Oh, big head shakes. I don't know what it is. Just pitching in against the pylons here. Oh, big 4-inch atomic prong. Oh, he's really shaking his head a bit. Only got 15 pound leader, so I don't want to go too hard on him. Oh, we've got him out a fair way from the structure now, but I'll let him go if he wants to go.
And perfect timing for boats to roar past.
Little Dewey.
Here we are. Two fish. Dewey. Yes. We've been searching for you all day. We have one first thing in the morning and one last thing in the afternoon.
That's ridiculous.
It's a little bit tough when you only catch a few like that.
Thanks for all the insights, Tristan. Don't go away, because we catch back up with Tim Morgan at Redcliffe. Welcome back to Redcliffe, where I get some tips and tricks from Tim Morgan.
For people that want to get into fishing, what's a good place to start?
Well, getting into fishing, I think everyone got into fishing. The basics is just using bait. You know, there's nothing, like I've got a young son now, and I haven't owned a yabby pump for about 20 years. I've just gone out and bought one. So to get on those flats, pump a few yabbies, and there's pretty much nothing that doesn't swim in an estuary that won't eat a yabby, you know. So you can go out there, you can target, you know, bream, flathead, whiting, you get ludrick on yabbies, and I think that's probably the best place to start. Yep. I think it's, to me, the important thing, a lot of people go fishing for the first time, they use wire traces and things like that. I think it's just keep it light and keep it simple, you know. When fishing with yabbies and stuff like that, it's get yourself a nice sharp, like gamakatsu hook, the lightest weight, like our jig heads, like our Seekers jig heads we're using. Get a lightest weight sinker you can, let that yabby flow over the bottom nice and naturally, and you're going to catch a lot of fish. But then when you want to step up to lure fishing, you know, there's plenty of fish to get caught on lures as well. So like we were using before, little atomic prongs, little prawn imitation, you catch everything on prawns. So, you know, lightly weight Seekers jig head in one of them. You know, probably the best place to start targeting fish would be flathead to me. Do it on a run out tide where you can see the currents running over a sand flat into a bit deeper water. On a run out tide, as it's getting lower, the flathead are going to sit in that deeper water, ambushing any bait fish coming over. So cast your plastic up onto the sandbank and hop it down. With bream and snapper, I said use the lightest jig head you can. When I target flathead, I probably use a little bit heavier because their strike zone's right near the bottom. If you can bounce that lure over the bottom, over that sandbar, you know, and in front of the flathead's face, they're gonna race out and eat it. So, you know, there's plenty of fish to be caught around Brisbane. It's just, I suppose, getting into your local tackle shops.
It is really important to hit the local tackle shops up because, you know, they're the guys that are out there, know the area, got all the people coming in, and they're putting them on the right gear all the time. You know, colours of plastics, what's popular at the right time. So it's always good advice to go see your local tackle shop first.
But one thing you guarantee, you're not going to catch one if you're sitting at home.
Well,
you've got to get out there and have a crack. And
that's right.
Oh, there's one there.
He's on.
A huge one, but again, when it's a numbers game, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Come on, that can't count. It's nearly the same size as your lure.
That's all. Well, that just goes to show a lot of people think of bream as being these, you know, mild-mannered little fish, and you often catch small bream like this, so they are a pretty aggressive predatory fish and feeder. So, you know, this same lure in the same spot there, you know, you've got every chance of throwing in up at Redcliffe here and getting, you know, a 40-centimetre fish next cast sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
and where the little ones are, there's big ones with bream?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's like great little sport fish, great fun, and beats being at work, doesn't
Absolutely,
it?
absolutely.
We'll throw him back in. I'll just pick up from where we were.
Yep.
So if you, there's a fish there now. Yep, got him on. So again, not a.
So was that where you left up, where not catching a fish?
Sorry. A little bit better, but not a big fish by any means. But still just targeting those lures over that. Oh, she come off.
Fell out.
Hooks fell out. So just targeting those, like it doesn't look like anything here, but if you came here on a low tide, and low tide's a great time to scout for bream, because on the higher tide they're going to come up to all those rock bars and everything like that. So that's one where we found a little rock bar at low tide, come back, fished it, got that lovely little fish on a little atomic crank.
What colour cranky were you using on that one?
Well, this is my favourite colour. It's called Ghost Gill Brown, GGB. Real natural looking little lure, I think, translucent. So it looks like a little bait fish or prawn going through the water.
Yeah.
And that's what bream love to eat, so let's get its big brother.
Yeah, well, hopefully I get his big brother.
Yeah, you're up.
I'd be happy with his little sister as well.
What I do to it? I broke it.
How you going there, Steve? You pulled any in yet? So I'm not on the board and you're not on the board, but these two are. You're close. I'm not even close yet. I told you needed to bring some bait for me.
As the tide heads out, we head upriver to go chase some flatties.
Like a bridge like this, heaps of noise. Do you still get a few fish around here?
Mate, we do. It's surprising, as you said before, they're probably a little bit used to it, but it just varies on tides and things like that, and hopefully we get a couple soon.
Yeah. Time of year, what sort of, in summertime, what sort of would you target around here, and winter, anything different? Or?
Winter, we normally chase a few tailor. There's been some nice Jude last season, we've got plenty.
Yep.
And now we're sort of probably more targeting. See how I did that?
Pigeons?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now we're probably sort of more chasing. Well, still a few Jew around and hopefully a flatheads.
Okay, sweet.
Something along those lines.
And just in time, Steve gets a little flatty to finish up the day.
Plenty of little rats in there anyway. I think this will be a little bream maybe. No, that's a flatty. There he is, another little beastie. Yep. Last time from my fish handling skills. Where's his date? Right there. Gone.
Well, that's all we have time for this week on Fishing the Dream. Steve, thanks once again for taking us out.
No
Had a
worries,
great
mate.
day, learned a lot of tips and techniques.
Yep.
Very good.
That was our pleasure.
For more information about you guys, where do we have to go?
Yeah, you can give us a call on 3862 9015 or come and see us at 1754 Gympie Road, Carseldine, which is the Caltex Service Centre on the way out of town.
And that's the only place where you can get your fuel, your bait,
Your beer.
and your beer.
And a pie.
And a pie.
And your bait.
And your bait. Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks very much.
A bit bigger soft plastic, so we've gone to the 3-inch prongs, so the prawn imitations again. And it's a real talent to get snagged on a sand flat. Oh, bit me off.
Here we go. Oh, what do we got here?
G'day, I'm Tristan Taylor and you're watching Living the Dream on 31 Digital.
Fishing the dream.
Living the Dream.
Just watch that screen behind you.
Yeah, and the rods.
I'll help you.
Reach it. Okay.